Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to try to get through this. I know the terrible tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut remains very much on the minds of everyone in this room, and I wanted to take a moment to remember the victims as well as the survivors and all who love them. Like many of you, when I heard about this senseless tragedy, my heart was very heavy and my eyes were filled with tears. Educators dedicate their lives to their students. On Friday, the teachers and staff in Connecticut acted heroically to shield the children whom they taught, cared for, and loved. We grieve for the children, teachers, and school staff. If you would, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Well, again, welcome to everyone to the 20th Annual Education Report Card Report. This is the 20th year for producing that report card. And over the last 2 decades, nearly 160 people have served on this committee. 6 of those committee members have gone on to serve as members of the school board, 2 have served as Metro Council members, and 2 have served in the state legislature. The purpose of the Chamber's report card is to inform the community about the progress of Metro schools and to offer recommendations for improvement to the school system. For 3 years in a row, this report card has received a national award for communications excellence from the American Chamber of Commerce executives. An excellent public school system will drive the future prosperity of this entire region and our city. And we hope that bringing business people and community leaders together to discuss education policy will generate further involvement and interest in our schools. Before we move on, we always would like to acknowledge our sponsors that make events like today's possible. We want to say thank you to our pivotal partners, and that's a partnership at the highest level: Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, Community Health Systems, and DELEC. We also want to thank our event sponsors, Altria and Regions, and their support enables the Chamber to make a difference in education. And then finally, thanks to the YMCA of Middle Tennessee for hosting the weekly meetings at their downtown location, as well as, of course, the Adventure Science Center for once again hosting this event this year at the Science Center. Each of you will receive a printed copy of the report card. Those are in high demand, and so we very much appreciate your attendance here, and as a reward for that attendance, you get a printed copy, as long as we don't run out. And so, once again, will you welcome back to the podium the chairman of our Metropolitan School Board of Education, Cheryl Mays. Cheryl.
Thank you, and good morning again. I will keep my comments brief. It is a pleasure to be among so many people who continue to believe in our children and understand the importance of public education. There's so much that we don't know, but there's so much that we do know about what is going on in our communities. We do know this: as community leaders, we can make children a priority and put them on the path to a healthy and productive lives. We can create places where children are safe and healthy and learning and growing. When we all join hands to work together, children and families and our whole community thrive. Here in Nashville, we are especially good at working together. In this community, we collaborate to make great things happen, even if we disagree about some of those specifics. In this spirit of common purpose, I am pleased to accept the Chamber's report card on behalf of the Board of Education of Metro Nashville Public Schools. We appreciate the Chamber staff and the volunteers who produced the report under the leadership of Ron Corbin and Todd Vandewater. We are committed to providing every student the foundation of knowledge, skills, and character to excel in higher education, work, and life. We embrace every child in our schools, and we appreciate your support and your collaboration. Again, thank you for your time. Have a great afternoon or morning.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I'm Stephanie Coleman. I'm the VP of Policy for the Nashville Area Chamber. The 2012 Education Report Card Committee began its work in August, conducting interviews, collecting data, and visiting schools before developing findings and recommendations. This report represents our consensus view of the 2011 to 2012 school year in Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. I'd like to give a special thanks to the Chamber volunteers who make up this committee, each spending an average of 40 hours of their time to produce this report. Please stand as I call your name. Bob Birdsong, SMS Holdings; Mark Capolino, Primary Leadership; Don Cole, Waste Management; Evelyn Davidson, retired MNPS teacher; Reverend Brian Fessler, Church of Scientology; Derek Free, Northwestern Mutual Financial Network; Reverend Kaki Friskix Warren, Dan and Margaret Maddox Charitable Fund; Derek Hines, Tennessee Technology Center at Nashville; Becky Kantz, The Leading Edge; Sarah Longhine, Fanny Battle Day Home for Children; Diane McDermott, Barge Wagner, Sumner and Cannon; Jackson Miller, Bison; Sandra Moore, Metropolitan Council, District 17; Susan Moriarty, YMCA Center for Civic Engagement; Bill Nelson, Little Planet Learning; David Peters, Universal Robotics; Jason Powell, Forest Hills Realtors and Tennessee House of Representatives, District 53; Brian Shaw, Reliant Bank; Patricia Stokes, Urban League of Middle Tennessee; Holly West, Catcher Vaughn and Bailey Public Relations; Susan West, Belmont University; and Allison Young, Young Motivation Group. It takes a special kind of volunteer to serve on this committee and extraordinary leadership to chair it. Thank you to our co-chairs, Ron Corbin, RBBC Holdings, and Todd Vandewater, Fifth Third Bank. Please join me in thanking these volunteers for their hard work and dedication. At this time, I'd like to turn the program over to the co-chairs of this year's Report Card Committee, Ron Corbin and Todd Vandewater, to present this year's report. Ron.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning. You know, each year the Chamber Report Card provides an assessment of the school system's performance during the most recently completed school year. In our 2009 report, this committee acknowledged that it would take 3 to 5 years of measurable gains to turn around Metro schools. For the past 3.5 years, the district has made some progress toward this goal. But while Metro schools made gains from the previous year across multiple measures, the committee and even the school district believes that the pace of improvement is not fast enough. For this reason, the committee is anxious for dramatic change. It's time for bold action. We are encouraged by Dr. Register's announcement in a recent press conference that the district is ready to embrace radical change. We're anxious for that change to take place because radical change comes with radical expectations. And we're actually waiting for that and anxious for that. We believe the district can meet the expectations by concentrating on the strategies that are producing results while maintaining a relentless focus on the key measurements that drive success. This must accelerate progress and increase accountability. Let's take a look at some of the achievement data for the 2011 and 2012 school year. While last year's achievement numbers are far too low, the district is moving in the right direction. Students in grades 3 through 8 showed fairly significant math gains with 39% scoring proficient or advanced, up 6.5% from the previous year. This next graph shows the percentage of grades 3 through 8 students scoring proficient or advanced in math by subgroup. The blue bars are 2010, the light blue bars are 2011, and the green bars are 2012. You can see that the number of students considered proficient or advanced increased for every subgroup in 2012. Reading gains were more modest, with 41% meeting proficiency benchmarks representing a growth of 2.9%. As you all know, comprehensive reading skills are extremely important, and if a child is learning to read in 3rd grade as opposed to reading to learn, they're going to have problems and struggles moving forward. Still, the district, serving nearly a third of the state's English language learners with a student population that's 72% economically disadvantaged, we're pleased to see all subgroups improved in grades 3 to 8 math and reading. For grades 9 through 12, the district saw growth of 4.2% in Algebra 1, up to 41.8% proficient or advanced. In this area, most subgroups improved, with the exception that students with disabilities remained flat at 22%. Finally, in high school English 2, most subgroups improved, with overall growth of 2.1%, up to 48.7% proficient or advanced. However, the Asian subgroup, which makes up 4% of Metro students, has declined each year, and the Hispanic subgroup, representing 16% of Metro students, remained flat at 37% proficient or advanced. While we commend the district for improvement in the percentage of students who are proficient or advanced, we remain concerned that overall achievement is unacceptably low. The ground we have to cover is apparent when Metro Schools is viewed alongside the Middle Tennessee school districts. As you can see in the chart of grades 3 through 8 students scoring proficient or advanced in reading and math, the 2 bars to the far left represent Davidson County. Metro Schools' achievement levels remain below the state average, as well as the average for most of their regional peers. This is why we cannot be satisfied with small steps forward. We must aim for dramatic growth. We've got to step up the pace and move the needle. In terms of accountability, this table shows the status of Metro schools in each of the surrounding counties, plus the 3 other urban school districts in Tennessee. The new accountability system that resulted from the state's No Child Left Behind waiver focuses on increasing proficiency for all students and closing the achievement gap. Metro Schools was placed in intermediate status under the new accountability system in yellow on this table, as were many of our neighboring counties. Green represents exemplary status, while red is in need of subgroup improvement. Metro Schools met 7 out of 9 of its annual measurable objectives, having fallen short on its 3rd grade reading and graduation rate targets. The graduation rate is the only measurement in the state's accountability system that lags 1 year behind. Metro Schools did not meet its 2012 annual measurable objective for graduation rate because the state changed the calculation to a 4-year rate for all students. In previous years, English language learners and special education students were given a 5th year to graduate on time. Because of the 1-year lag in this measure, we already know that the district will meet the 2013 graduation rate goal. And here we see the percentage of Metro graduates scoring at 21 or higher on the ACT. The percentage of students making at least 21 on the ACT has moved up by 1 percentage point each year, from 27% in 2010 to 28% in 2011 to 29% in 2012. This incremental progress is important. ACT is a difficult measure to impact since it assesses skills learned over a number of years. Still, this measure means 71% of Metro students are not meeting this college and career readiness benchmark. At this rate, it could take up to 2 decades for Metro schools to reach its goal. In green on the chart at 50%, and half of Metro students attain 21 or higher on the ACT. It is worth noting that finding out the number of students making a 21 or higher on ACT is a school district or a high school is nearly impossible for the average citizen or parent. Each year, the committee offers commendations recognizing the hard work and dedication of teachers, principals, and staff across the district. While test scores are not increasing quickly enough, nearly every measure and every subgroup did experience some improvement in 2011 and 2012 over the previous year. The district has already met its graduation rate target for next year, achieving a rate of 78.4% in 2012. Even more encouraging is the fact that both the 2011-2012 four-year rates exceeded the 2009 rate of 73.1%, which was based on a five-year calculation. We're especially pleased to see how far the district has come on this measure over the past 8 years, up from 58.2% in 2004. A few years ago, high schools were considered by many as a weak link in metro schools, but this is no longer the case. In July 2012, 7 of the academies of Nashville received national accreditation from the National Career Academy Coalition. Very few communities across the country are implementing academies in every zoned high school for every student, as Metro Schools has done. A few programs have the level of business and community support seen in Nashville. In July 2011, Dr. Register created an innovation zone that looked at the district's 10 lowest performing schools and implemented aggressive strategies to turn them around. In August 2011, Dr. Register created a network of high priority, highly effective principals to help improve student achievement, growth beyond the walls of their own schools by mentoring other principals. Just 2 weeks ago, Dr. Register announced the Metro schools would be expanding this initiative to involve more leaders in more schools. In 2011-2012, the district continued to add information into MNPS Leads. That's the district data warehouse. Now, with information including student achievement and discipline, teacher certifications and professional development, and financial data, the district has the capacity to move toward more data-driven decision-making. Just as we offer commendations each year, we also have identified 4 challenges facing our school system. While we commend the district for incremental gains across most achievement measures, we remain concerned about the pace of improvement. Less than half of the Metro students are proficient or advanced in reading and math. The results of individual student subgroups indicate that there continues to be a large achievement gap. That's why we're anxious for the radical change Dr. Jesse Register has mentioned, in hopes that it will lead to dramatic gains in student achievement. The district's reform initiative, MNPS Achieves, has made progress since its formation 3.5 years ago. However, the complexity of the plan, with 46 separate initiatives, creates a lack of understanding around the direction of Metro schools. The community's clear desire to support the improvement of our schools is hindered by a lack of clarity around how best to provide that support, and uncertainty about whether the efforts already underway are producing results. An issue that arose during numerous committee interviews was the delay in receiving test results from the state. As an example, the state released its priority schools list on August 13th, 12 days after the new school year began in Nashville. This allows no planning time before the beginning of the school year and doesn't give parents time to make informed decisions around school choice. We believe the Department of Education should share priority status and test results with schools and districts as soon as possible, with a public release no later than June 30. Along with 46 other states, Tennessee is taking the important step to implement the Common Core State Standards in every school by 2014. The new standards include an increased focus on skills necessary for college and career readiness. Within 2 school years, the district will have to ensure it has enough computers and bandwidth to accommodate the new online PARCC assessments that accompany the Common Core Standards. As you can see, there's a lot of change occurring in Metro schools. Our hope is that these changes will lead to better outcomes for students. Now I'd like to turn it over to my co-chair, Todd Vanderwater. Todd?
Thank you, sir. Well, it's always fun to come up to the podium after you've followed a few professionals like Chairwoman Mays and Ralph and Ron, but I'll do my best to stay up to their standards, and I know we have a couple more professionals coming thereafter. So, as part of the research that goes into developing the report card, for the past 5 years, the Chamber has commissioned a public opinion poll on education. Over the next several slides, we'll learn how Nashvillians felt about the Metro schools at the end of the last school year in May 2012. For the 5th year in a row, education is the most important issue for Nashvillians, even at a time when the economy continues to be a concern. 85% of Nashvillians believe improving public education is personally very important to them. See the dark green in this chart. The light green portion shows those who think improving public education is somewhat important. So overall, 97% of Nashvillians claim that improving public education is important to them. The rating for elementary, middle, and high schools all decreased slightly from the previous year, while the rating for the overall district increased slightly. As you can see in the chart, the public perception of Metro schools has remained virtually flat over the past 4 years, despite incremental progress in student achievement. Asked whether K-12 education in Nashville was better than a year ago, 58% said it was about the same. 14% said it was better, and 13% said it was worse. Nashvillians continue to see parental involvement, a committee focus last year, as the #1 issue facing Metro schools, followed by student achievement and teacher effectiveness. 81% of Nashvillians feel Metro schools need more funding in order to meet challenges schools face. This includes both those who strongly agree and those who somewhat agree. As a reminder, this poll was taken just a few weeks after the mayor proposed a property tax increase, including an eventual increase of more than $40 million in additional fundings to our school, or schools. 82% of Nashvillians clearly support charter schools as an important public school option in our city. Given this public interest, it was natural for our committee to choose charter schools as this year's focus topic. As the committee examined charter schools, we did so recognizing that this model is just one tool that state and local educators can use to improve student achievement. It is critical to note we are not pushing charters as the solution for MNPS, but rather see them as an integral part of the solution. With a total of about 20 charter schools expected to be operating in Nashville next fall, we are beginning to have a better understanding of the opportunities these schools bring, as well as the challenges that should be overcome. In examining this topic, the committee came away with several key observations about charter schools. First, the district needs a comprehensive strategy for charter schools. Charter schools are district schools, and students at charter schools are district students, so we need a comprehensive plan. With the changes in the state's charter school law, the number of yearly applications is growing rapidly. The school board needs to be more proactive about defining the types of charter schools most needed. Additionally, and an important opportunity exists for the school board and the district to articulate how additional charters can improve the overall performance of Metro schools. In December 2010, the district and Nashville charter operators took a proactive step to create a collaboration compact, outlining how district and charter operators would work together. Much has happened over the past 2 years, making it an opportune time to revisit the language and update the compact. Charter schools face many frustrations during the startup phase once they are approved to open. Eager to begin implementing their instructional models, they are challenged by having to build from scratch plans for acquiring student-ready facilities, running county-wide transportation, and contracting for federally approved meals. Metro Schools has the infrastructure and the capacity to provide these and other services. So a formal shared services system will benefit both the district and charter operators. The committee visited several high-performing charter schools and made these observations. At the schools we visited, students were polite and attentive to their teachers. Some of the charter schools utilize culture audits and feedback to ensure teachers are keeping students engaged, disciplined, and alert. We witnessed a persistent use of data and high expectations. School values were posted on walls in every classroom, and all teachers and students knew what they were expected to attain. And I'm going to deviate from the script here. One student, a fifth grader at Nashville Prep, could tell me that he had to read 600 Lexile level appropriate words per trimester and 1.8 million words per year, which was the equivalent of 2 Lexile grades. That's astounding that a fifth grader could articulate that in a room full of scary, strange adults. So congratulations, Ravi. Parents are involved and teachers are available. Some schools have agreements with parents that require a certain level of parental involvement. We heard that many charter school teachers make frequent home visits and provide cell phone numbers for parents to call teachers well into the evening. We saw that a focus on recruiting and retaining highly effective teachers made a big difference. We heard that longer instructional days can accelerate performance gains if the content of the additional hours is specifically designed to increase achievement. Charter school teachers who spoke with the committee emphasized the need for differentiated instruction, specific skill, understanding where students are and knowing the specific skills they need to get them to the next level. Finally, we heard that, quote, demographics don't determine destiny. A direct quote from one of the charter school leaders we visited. In looking at some of these schools' test results, it is clear that we now live in a no excuses educational environment. Finally, holding charter schools accountable for performance requires a willingness to close underperforming schools. Charter operators understand the consequences of underperformance and the limited number of years to show improvement. Now I'll go into the committee's 5 recommendations, 3 of which are directly related to some of the observations I've just made. First, the committee's hope is that these 5 recommendations, when implemented, will accelerate progress and increase accountability in Metro schools. Our first recommendation, the district needs a laser focus on the key measurements that drive success in every classroom. Ultimately, it is the school board's responsibility to decide what those measurements are, and it is for this reason that we recommend the school board develop a dashboard to review progress on key performance measurements at their regularly scheduled meetings. This will help ensure that academic performance and growth are top of mind for our school board, helping drive discussions at each business meeting, and it will provide regular public access to these important measurements. As I mentioned earlier, the thoughtful, informed integration of charter schools into an overall strategy for Metro schools is vital to the future of public education in our city. For this reason, we recommend that MNPS create and implement a comprehensive strategy for integrating charter schools into the district as a step towards creating an overall strategic plan that clearly connects all reform efforts. One overarching theme from the committee's research was that Metro schools currently lacks a strategic plan. We believe creating a district plan for charter schools could serve as a step towards creating an overall strategic plan that incorporates all reform initiatives. Metro Schools has an opportunity to provide valuable, efficient central office services to charter school operators. Offering shared services to charter schools will provide revenue to the district and will allow charter leaders to focus more attention on their instructional programs. In this area, the committee sees an opportunity for metro schools to make a difference relatively quickly. That is why the committee recommends MNPS develop a system to offer shared services for charter schools as a way to increase efficiencies and cost savings. The district's innovation zone was created to turn around its 10 lowest performing schools. The IZ is showing positive results in its first year of operation, and other districts in Tennessee are beginning to consider the model. Since this program has only 1 year under its belt, the committee realizes that the proof points are not yet 100% clear. However, we feel strongly that this approach exemplifies exactly the type of proactive methods that are needed to move performance more quickly. That's why the committee recommends that MNPS broaden the innovation zone to the bottom 25% of schools, with an understanding that all metro schools will benefit from a model that provides increased flexibility to school leaders in exchange for greater accountability around student outcomes. We have an opportunity in Nashville to open and expand high-quality charter schools, but we must also make sure that expectations for performance are crystal clear on the front end and insist on closing poor-performing charter schools. That's why the committee recommends that the Tennessee General Assembly amend state law to implement a default closure mandate for charter schools that are placed on the state's priority school lists for not meeting performance standards. This mandate would mean that if a charter school is on the state's priority list for failing to meet performance benchmarks, it would automatically close at the end of the school year. This is similar to laws already on the books in Ohio, Florida, and Indiana. Targeting the lowest performing schools as measured by the state's accountability system would not preclude the school board from closing other charters that are not meeting performance benchmarks in their charter agreements. It simply makes the closure process easier, quicker, and more predictable. By holding schools accountable for performance, the school board can help ensure that the entire school system continues to improve until every student is given what Metro Schools promises in its vision statement: the foundation of knowledge, skills, and character necessary to excel in higher education, work, and life. When Dr. Register arrived at Metro Schools nearly 4 years ago, he began working to change the culture of Metro Schools. Today, we are eager to see dramatic results being achieved in some of our schools expand to impact every child in every classroom. We believe we have the right leader in place to make this happen. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Director of Schools, Dr. Jesse Register.
Good morning.
Good morning.
People have come in since I sat down. It's great to see all of you here this morning. I want to first thank Ron Corbin and Ton Vanderwater and members of the chamber staff, members of the committee, the report card committee, for great work. I remember, and I've said this before in this setting, and I'll say it again today, I remember fall 4 years ago when I decided to interview for the job here, and I wanted to learn more about Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. I'd been in the state for over 10 years, but I didn't know the specifics. And one of the first pieces of information I turned to was a chamber report card, and it was very informative and very insightful, and I thought set a really good direction for where this district needed to go. And I used it as I went through an interview process with the Board of Education at that time. The work that you folks have done is outstanding. It is thoughtful and very involved, and so I appreciate again the opportunity to have this report and to have an opportunity to respond to it. I asked Anna, though, right before I got up here, I said, "Anna, how would you like to have to follow that?" And so I'm going to try to follow that. Let me say a word about how I look at this report today and other things that are happening in our district now, events that have happened just in the last few weeks. And I consider this to be a culmination of a series of reports and analysis of the state of metropolitan Nashville public schools. And I'll name some of those very quickly. First, the state report card. It is late data, but about 2 months ago now, we received our state report card and the information that came from that. 2 weeks ago, I made a presentation, and a few weeks before that, I had asked for tribal education group, David Moran and his group, stand up, guys, tribal. David Moran's key lead in this process and been a significant partner of ours for a little over a year now, to give me a report. It's a critical report because I asked for that. I wanted to know what wasn't working right. And I got 3 good points from tribal that we need to consider and react to. A couple of weeks ago, we were identified as one of the 61 finalists in the country for District Race to the Top initiative. It's a really good grant that creates, in large part, what one of the recommendations is, a blueprint for the future, because it builds on the foundation that's been laid and it talks about next steps. We didn't receive that grant. We're using the grant and the evaluation of that grant now to determine what next steps to take. And it's my expectation and hope that there will be a second round of those and that we will be successful in that. And then finally, this Chamber of Commerce report card that I think is insightful, and I think what we have to do is consider all of the above. I'm not going to use my time today to try to react to all of these, to respond to each step and what we're going to do. Instead, what I hope to do is to just focus very briefly on some of these recommendations and talk about what our next steps need to be. I think that's what's important. I found, and my takeaway from the Chamber findings, and by the way, I received the report Friday, middle of the morning, so I do not have a PowerPoint. I haven't had time to do that. Ralph, you did wreck my weekend, though. I've been working. Where's Ralph? I've been working on this, on the remarks this weekend. So let me just say, my takeaway from the report was, one, a good foundation's been laid over the last 3 years. We feel very good about the work that's been done in our system. We are moving in the right direction. And student achievement is not improving at a fast enough pace. I agree with all of those. I agree with that. I agree with the findings that Tribal passed on to us. Where are our greatest needs? Student achievement is too low. That's an urgency. That's an urgency that we have to see in both reports. We've heard from our people that central office bureaucracy impedes autonomy. It impedes the opportunity for good leaders, good school-based leaders, to quickly move ahead, and we have to address that. And that there's a lack of principal autonomy and accountability in the system. To make rapid change, change has to be transformational. That means if we want radical outcomes, then we have to do things differently. We cannot continue to do the same things. Transformational change is what we're after, not incremental change, which means doing the same things better every year. You get incremental results when that happens. So let me talk about several areas of change that I think are very important. Number one, the concept of network lead principals, greater autonomy and greater accountability for principals. We've started that process this year. We have 7 of those and 2 school-based lead principals in our district now. I'm very proud of the work that's been going on this past year with a change to network lead principals. Let me ask for those network leads and lead principals who are present to please stand up. And by the way, we sent word out. Everyone was going to be here. Come on, step up so they can see you too, because you're important. I asked for all of these people to be here this morning, but some felt like they needed to be back at school this morning given recent circumstances. Elaine Farner is a lead principal. Steve Ball, who couldn't be here this morning, is a lead principal. They started a year early. We're seeing great change and great leadership from them. The 7 network leads are in place this year. They were carefully selected. They were selected based on student achievement, the best results. They were selected based on their leadership skills and their capacity to lead great schools and to spread that leadership in networks. Our goal is to give them more autonomy and to hold them more greatly accountable for the results. Our goal is to grow their influence in best practice networks across the district. Our expectation is to take this to scale in 2 years. We have 10 schools that fit this model now. We do not believe that you should take the best leaders out of the most important jobs. Let's leave the best principals in place running schools and leading networks of other principals. I'll tell you, I'll go back to a comment that was made in the Chamber report, that there's a foundation that's been laid over the past 3 years. 18 months ago, this district did not have the capacity to identify network leads. We had to grow that capacity, and we're continuing to grow that capacity with a significant investment in leadership development. The iZone recommendation from the Chamber. Alan Coverstone's led that group. Alan Coverstone, stand up, and if we have iZone principals present, please stand up. iZone principals. Stand up, stand up. Okay, thanks. We have 10 schools now that fall into this category. And we've worked with our charter, not our charter partners, but with our tribal partners to really develop a set of strategies to turn around these schools that fall into the lowest category of performance. Through inspection, through self-analysis, through external evaluation, and through developing leadership and networks. We are presently growing the number of iZone schools to 34 during the course of this school year using the practices that we've learned from our tribal partners. So we feel like we're really, that's the cornerstone of the change. Network leads, greater autonomy, greater responsibility, greater authority, greater accountability for our best practice principles, and to take that to scale on a district-wide basis. The second component that we have to have is to restructure the central office. I'll come out with an announcement in mid-January about the way that we're doing that. It's not a budget-cutting practice. It is a streamlining practice to make sure that the central office supports those autonomous networks of principals. We're going to focus on a couple of areas of work in our central office as we look at this restructuring. Our leadership and learning department, how we supervise principals. Are we too top-down? Do we put up set roadblocks for giving these network leads autonomy? And I'll share this with you, that one of the concerns as I've met with these groups of lead principals, the best practice principles, is, do you really mean it? Are you really going to let us have this authority, this autonomy to do what needs to be done in our schools? And the answer is yes, and we're going to show that in a number of different ways. Asset, our human resource department, has antiquated practices. When principals need to make decisions about who they hire, they need to be able to do it quickly. They need to be able to deal with their problems, and we need to create a system by which they can do that. More to come on that process very, very soon in January about the restructuring of the central office. 3 of the 5 specific recommendations of the Chamber report dealt with charter schools. I think that's very timely. I think it's very important that that comprehensive conversation be held in this community. It is important to strategically incorporate charter schools into the overall plan for public education in Davidson County. I'll pause, I'll say that again. It's important to strategically incorporate charter schools into the overall plan for public education in Davidson County. Now I'm going to say some things that both extremes will probably disagree with. We must plan for responsible growth of charter schools that add value to the system of public schools that presently exists. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and say charter schools are not good for us. We have great charter schools in Davidson County today. We need to learn from those and develop collaborative partnerships with those. Nor do we need to say that the public school system in Davidson County is broken and can't be fixed and needs to be replaced with all charter schools. Those are the 2 extremes. Neither of those extremes is the correct path. So the real question is, what are we after? What do we want? What are we really after? And I'll give you the answer, my answer. 3 words. All good schools. Let me state it negatively, or the reverse. No bad schools. That's what we have to be after. We have 150 of them, give or take a few, depending on how you count schools. What we have to be about, the urgency for us, is to create all good schools in Davidson County. No child deserves a bad school. So that includes district zone schools that are good schools, magnet schools that are good schools, choice option schools that are good schools, and charter schools that are good schools. And all of them need to learn from each other. Good charters are innovative. They have good achievement. We need to learn from that. We need to learn from their innovative practices. I want our network leads to learn from those charter principals who know how to be autonomous and how to drive that. We need to learn from those. My expectation is that we have no mediocre charter schools. We are successful when they all knock the top out of the charts. District needs to learn from that. I think we have something to offer charters also. Dean Candace McQueen and I started just a few weeks ago regular leadership meetings that pulled together network lead principals and charter leaders. We were very pleased with that first meeting, and the group decided to continue those on a regular basis. I think we need an effective leadership collaborative that embraces these people, and I think that's the key to getting us to the place where we have all good schools. I'd like to speak to the school board and the administration as a part of this process. I also have a cold, pardon the water. The school board is potentially one of the greatest school boards, perhaps the greatest I've ever worked with. I've been a superintendent since 1989, and I've had many school boards and many school board members. The school board's got to react to sweeping changes in state law and the resulting increased responsibility placed on local boards of education in this state. We have to work to understand the state laws and the way they've changed, and to clarify those state laws as a part of the chamber recommendation recommended. And we have to develop those strategies, still to be developed, that incorporate added value as we incorporate charters into a strategic plan. I want to jump to another topic now. That's off my prepared remarks, but I'll mention it anyway. The Chamber report card talked about increasing results. We've got to focus more on results, outcomes, if you will. We had a really good school board work session last week, and we talked about my evaluation. We talked about the director's evaluation, and a takeaway from that meeting was that the evaluation system that's been very thorough in the past was very heavily weighted toward process and less weighted toward outcomes. And the board decided at that time, and I agree with this, that it needs to become more balanced, that it needs to be a balance of process and a balance of outcomes. And we're working to do that now. I think very consistent with Chamber recommendations. I believe the school board will develop as a cohesive leadership group. I think it will be an outstanding Board of Education. In my years, I have never seen a board turn over to the extent that this one did with new members and be faced with the challenges it's been faced with in the last 6 months. So I commend them and look forward to continuing to work with them. Now, back to the main topic. How do we accelerate student achievement? And I want to mention a few other keys to success. The ones I've mentioned I think are significant, but I want to mention a few others. Some people have advised me not to talk about this, but I'm going to. First, recognize the diversity in our schools and community as an advantage, not a liability. That statement that I've made before, I've been misunderstood sometimes when I make that statement. I'm not talking about a desegregation plan. I'm talking about the fact that status of students does not matter, that diversity and quality are not mutually exclusive. We just need to make good, effective decisions that recognize the diversity that already exists in our community and to make that successful as a part of our school system and in our community. Let me give you a specific example. Closing the achievement gap, improving academic achievement. It looks different in this community than many others because the great majority of the children in the public school system in Davidson County fall into one of those gaps. When we talk about closing the achievement gap, we're talking about increasing student achievement for the great majority of the children that we serve. We have to make smart decisions about things like the location of schools, and we have to make smart decisions about access to quality teachers and leaders. If we're going to have all good schools in our diverse community, we have to eliminate gaps in quality of teachers and quality of leadership in our district. And that's what I mean when I talk about let's recognize the diversity that we have across our district. Desegregation is not our issue. It's providing quality across the board. Example of issues that we have to deal with. If we're going to eliminate the achievement gap, we have to eliminate the digital divide. 44% of the children in our school district go home and do not have access to the internet. We're ready to make a transition to digital learning. How can we do that when almost half of our children don't have access to the internet at home? We need to take that on as a community. And I don't care about some research that says access to technology doesn't make a difference. It does if you know how to use it. And we have to learn how to use it and be smart about it. And I want to close with this. Given the recent happenings in Connecticut this week, we have to look at the social, emotional development of children in our schools. We have to have safe schools. I want you to know that I think our schools are safe. We're doing a lot to promote safety. Is it enough? The answer is no. We've got to ask some hard questions in this community. about how we deal with our young people and what our young people are exposed to. We've got to pay attention to the social and emotional development of all of the students that we serve. We can't let those children who have emotional disorders fall through the cracks and not be attended to. We have to do that. We have to make sure that our security procedures are in place and alive and well. I debated whether I was going to say this or not, but I'm going to. 6 months or so ago, I dealt with a zero-tolerance offense, an appeal. A student carried a gun to school. As a part of the student's statement, he said, I think this was a 15-year-old. He said, I was afraid, I felt threatened, so I left school yesterday afternoon and got a gun. We cannot have a community that allows a 15-year-old to leave school and get a gun because he's afraid. We cannot allow that. This is a bigger issue than this school system. And we've got to address that as we go forward. There's no way to guarantee that we don't have crises like what's been experienced in our country. My fear is the number's growing, and we've got to change policies so that that number of those incidents doesn't continue to grow and so that it doesn't reach into our community. I want to say that we've got a great education mayor. We've had great support from the Metro Council. We've got a school board that is developing and I think will be very strong. We have a partnership that we want to build with our charter leaders in the district. I see Randy, I see Jeremy, I know Ravi's here, I don't know. All the charter partners stand up or step forward. Let's see you. There you go, Ravi, yes. Fist on the ground. We hope that we can develop that. I think that in this community, we have the opportunity to be the best in the country, and I look forward to working with you to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Register. We live in a city that is fortunate to have a mayor and Metro Council, as Dr. Register said, that put education as one of their top priorities. And we've seen that especially over the last year through a tough budget cycle that ended up with a more than $40 million increase in funding for our schools. With that, I want to thank Mayor Dean and welcome him to the podium to say a few remarks.
Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you to everybody who is here to hear about the report card. And let me also say a special word of thanks to all members of the committee, and particularly Ron and Todd for a job well done. I think this is probably the most detailed, specific, and substantive report ever done, and I appreciate that. Let me thank the Metro Board of Education. All the members are here, and that speaks to their commitment to our schools. I'd also like to recognize Sandra Moore, Jason Holloman, and Berkeley Allen, who are with us from the Metro Council, along with Jason Paul, who's our new state representative and who also served on the report card committee. Thank you all for being here. Now, I am proud of the improvements that have been made in our schools over the past several years. Our administration, teachers, and students have worked hard, and they deserve recognition for the progress that has occurred. Our students have been my top priority since the first day that I started campaigning for mayor, and they remain my #1 priority. As mayor, I have supported our school system both financially and as a willing partner in implementing reforms, and I will continue to be an avid supporter of schools for as long as I'm mayor. However, today my message is this. Although we are moving in the right direction, we are not doing so fast enough. We have over 80,000 children depending on us. We have to get this right. Every child has one shot at 3rd grade, and the 8th grade, and high school. The unfortunate reality is that there are thousands of children in our schools who are not getting the tools they need to be successful. Consider this startling fact. Tennessee as a state ranks 49th this year, 49th, in composite ACT scores, ahead of only Mississippi. And our district's composite score is considerably lower than our state score and lower than Mississippi's. The ACT test is designed to determine college and career readiness. A minimum composite score of 21 is needed to succeed in college, yet only 29% of our students scored a 21 or above in 2012. Less than 1 in 6 of Tennessee's high school seniors met all the college readiness benchmarks on the ACT. More than 1/3 of them were not college ready in any subject area. Of all the school districts in the 10-county Middle Tennessee region, and you saw the chart, ours is the lowest performing in reading. Let that sink in. Of all the 10-county Middle Tennessee region school areas, ours is the lowest performing in reading. Of those, we outperform only Maury County by 0.1 in math. When compared to the other 3 urban districts, Hamilton County, Knox County, and Memphis, we outperform only Memphis. That's not acceptable. While some progress is being made, incremental progress is not enough to make a difference for our students who are at schools at this moment. At this moment, those third graders are getting their shot at third grade. Not 2 years from now, not 3 years from now, right now. And whose futures depend on the education they receive today. These kids can't afford to wait for the results of a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 2-year plan. And so the time for bold, aggressive action is now. Some reforms are working better and faster than others. In my opinion, we should focus on replicating and strengthening those reforms. Let's devote our resources and our attention to what works. We owe that much to our children. There are many, many talented and dedicated people working in our traditional schools, and I visit them often. And there are some great things happening in several of our schools. I was at Rose Park Middle School recently celebrating their success. I appreciate and value all the people working hard every day in all of our schools and do not want my remarks misinterpreted to sound otherwise. However, because the focus of the report card is on charter schools, and because you don't want to hear me talk all day, I want to focus on what's in the report card, charter schools. I know that there's been a lot of debate here in Nashville, across Tennessee, and indeed across the country about charter schools. Some believe they are the answer to our nation's education crisis. Some believe they are the worst thing that ever happened to public education. And as with most things where people are at extremes, I would submit that the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Charter schools are not a panacea. They're not the sole solution to a very complicated problem. But quality charter schools can and should play a big role in reforming our education system and providing our students with excellent education they deserve. And I would suggest that it's time to set aside the differences between charter and traditional school supporters. After all, they're all public schools. And we will need the resources and expertise of both to realize our goal of a quality education for every student in Nashville. While Nashville's charter community is still in many, many ways in its infancy, we are already seeing some remarkable results. I think those results deserve some special attention today, and please read the report card, as I think we can learn from their successes. One of our oldest charter middle schools, KIPP Academy, will see their first 5th grade class graduate from high school this year. KIPP, which is one of the nation's most prestigious charter organizations, continues to excel here in Nashville. In the recently released data from 2011-2012 school year, KIPP Academy Nashville showed more overall student growth than any other middle school in the district, including our academic magnet schools. Perhaps even more impressive is the fact that KIPP Academy Nashville's 8th grade Algebra 1 pass rate was not only higher than the open enrollment 9th grade Algebra 1 pass rate in the rest of the district, it was also higher than the 9th grade rate in Wilson, Sumner, Cheatham, Rutherford, Robinson, and even Williamson County. Exceeding those pass rates one grade early is incredible. Newer charter schools have been doing amazing work too. Nashville Prep, a charter middle school in its 2nd year of existence in downtown Nashville, posted the highest 5th grade TCAP achievement result of any enrollment school, open enrollment school in our district in science, social studies, and math, and showed the highest gains of any 5th grade in the district in English. Nashville Prep scholars also posted higher TCAP achievement results in math than Williamson County's 5th graders. The average number of the inaugural class at STEM Prep, also a 2nd year charter middle school, entered 5th grade 2 to 4 grades below grade level. Yet they outperformed every other 5th grade in the district in gains in math and were 2nd in English only to Nashville Prep. I cannot emphasize this next point enough. These are schools that are serving our most at-risk population. When you hear about the challenges of educating poor students or minority students or students for whom English is not the first language, those challenges are real and they are daunting, but these schools are doing it and they're doing it extremely well. Each of these schools serve student populations that are almost exclusively minority and economically disadvantaged. Furthermore, STEM Prep is the most diverse charter school in the state. The most diverse charter school in the state with students from 20 countries and a 73% English language learner population. Yet they are all getting the job done at an accelerated pace. That is what we need to see more of in Nashville. I could talk for hours about other charters in the district that are doing great work with our most at-risk students. Some are schools that have been open for a while, Lead Academy, for example. Some are only a year or two old, like Liberty Collegiate and East End Prep. But you may be asking yourself what this has to do with our school system as a whole. With a little over 3,000 of the 81,000 children are in charter schools, the vast majority of our public school students still attend traditional district schools. So why did the report card committee focus on charter schools? And why am I spending this time talking about a handful of them? It's simple. These schools are proving that the achievement gap can be closed, that every student can learn and succeed, and that it is something that should cause our entire city to sit up and pay attention. And then ask, how can we do more of it? The answer is more charters, 2, more support for the charters we have, and 3, taking the things that are working in these charter schools and implementing them in our traditional schools. I'll start with the third point, replicating in our traditional schools the practices that are creating success in our charter schools. That was, after all, the original intent behind charters, to serve as test environments for best practices. From the findings of the report card committee, it is clear that the success of high-performing charter schools can be summarized into 3 areas: talent, autonomy, and accountability. These are the key things we need to see replicated across the district. Research shows that one of the most critical influences on a student's academic achievement is the quality of their teacher. And high-quality teachers are understandably drawn to and learn from high-quality leadership. The schools I have highlighted all have incredible teachers and amazing school leaders. We have taken steps in the right direction. In this year's budget, we increased starting teacher pay to bring us from 30th in the state to 3rd. We have also increased the number of Teach for America teachers in our school. Teach for America was rated the #1 teacher preparation program in the state by the Department of Education based on student achievement. And this keeps going back to that. This is about student achievement. It is no coincidence that the great charter schools I mentioned today are full of Teach for America Corps members and alumni. We need to continue to recruit great teachers and school leaders from wherever. We need to make sure that we keep the ones we have. Autonomy is another critical aspect of great schools. It's one of the reasons that quality charters excel. When the leadership of a school has the ability to make decisions for that school, whether it's a longer school day, extended school years, or something else, we're giving that school the tools they need to help specific student populations succeed and to achieve. The district has started along the path with the I-zone schools, and we need to see more autonomy at the local school level if we're going to accelerate the pace of the improvement, and I applaud the desire to expand the I-zone schools. And the third factor is accountability. Schools must be held accountable for their work. One of the benefits of the charter system is the ability to close a school if it's not succeeding. That was done in Nashville recently, and although it is a painful process, and I applaud the board for taking on painful decisions, it is necessary if we're going to send the message that we demand excellence from our schools, from all of our schools. And in order to move forward, all of our district schools and the district management need to be held accountable for the work that is being done. The report card committee recommends a dashboard to review progress, and I agree that would be a great step in the right direction. Only by measuring our progress in an objective fashion can we make the best decisions on how to continue moving forward. And only by holding leadership accountable can we ensure excellence. And so I'd like to see all of our schools focus on three key components: talent, autonomy, and accountability going forward, all of our schools. As I mentioned earlier, the two other crucial ingredients to closing the achievement gap are more charter schools and more support for the ones we have. One simple thing we can do to make a big difference is to actively recruit quality charter schools and school leaders to come to Nashville. As the report card committee noted, and please read the report, the district has a great opportunity to identify choice gaps and proactively recruit charter operators to fill those gaps, to give every one of our kids a chance to achieve and to succeed. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. I have visited charter schools across the country. There are national charters with great track records. They would have a profound effect on the students' lives here in Nashville, and particularly the kids who are most at risk. There's Yes Prep in Houston, there's Rocket Ship in California, and there are many, many others. There are also great school leaders who would love to come to a welcoming, friendly, cooperative city to open new networks of high-performing charter schools. We need to begin the recruitment process today. Our children do not have the luxury of time, and this should not be just the responsibility of the district or of the city. To the philanthropic and business community, I say this: now is not the time to stand on the sidelines. Get engaged in this process with us. Together we can make a real difference. But get engaged in meaningful reform and meaningful change that's going to move the achievement needle. And finally, the district needs to be supportive of the quality schools that exist right now. This report card committee recommended the district adopt a strategy to assist charter schools' growth, including facilities plans. And I could not agree more. The district must support the work of high-quality charter schools, starting with a real partnership to help them meet their facility needs. Of the 3 high-performing charter schools I highlighted earlier, 2 are without facilities for next year, and 1, KIPP, will only have a facility because the city stepped in and provided the additional funding. We need to find a solution to those issues, and we need to find them not in a year, not in 2 years, but in the next few months, because that is going to be first and foremost on my mind. Now is the time to move forward aggressively and truly change the educational landscape for our children. It is time to roll up our sleeves and get to work, and to work together in traditional and charter schools to solve our educational crisis. I spend a lot of time talking about our schools, about the great city Nashville is, and an even greater city it will become when our schools reach their true potential. President Kennedy said it best: we want to be first, not first if, not first but first. I truly believe we can do it, but it will take all of us, so let's get to work. As I've already said, the time for bold and aggressive action is now. Our children deserve as much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dean, and thanks again to Dr. Register for offering your insights and thoughts. You will each receive a printed copy of the report as you leave today, and the report will also be available today online at nashvillechamber.com. Again, we'd like to thank today's event sponsors, Pivotal Partners Blue Cross Blue Shield, Community Health Systems, and Delic, and our event sponsors, Altria Regions, the YMCA of Middle Tennessee, and the Adventure Science Center. Thanks to each of you who have chosen to invest your success through being a Chamber member. And if anyone has questions about Chamber membership, there are staff around to answer those questions for you. Thanks again for joining us today, and we are adjourned.